Prior to the pandemic, only 6% of employees were 100% remote. That's crazy to think about, isn't it? How things change when that change is forced. And we have learned that not all change is bad. Both employers and employees have gotten on board to realize that remote work is actually beneficial and productive. Welcome to another episode of the Workforce Link podcast, where we're offering forward-thinking conversations for the workforce, linking employers and job seekers to a brighter tomorrow. I'm your host, Sunday Jo Graham with the Central Workforce Development Region, and I'm glad to be back with you for another episode of the Workforce Link podcast. Today, we are actually closing up Season 2 of the podcast, and I am so thrilled that you have spent the last 2 seasons with me. If you're new to the podcast, you've got a lot to catch up on, and we're glad you're here. We've covered everything that you can imagine in this season, from learning how to overcome defeat when you don't get the job, how to handle workplace disagreements, how to leave your job well, resume mistakes, how to write an amazing cover letter, and more. And you can find all the episodes wherever it is that you listen to podcasts or at theworkforcelink.com. Perhaps one of the benefits of the last crazy 2 years that we've been living in this pandemic is the opportunity for more remote jobs. And what's interesting is that before the pandemic, there were many employees who wanted to work remotely, but a lot of employers were not on board. And I think part of it is that they couldn't see the benefits because it was new territory for a lot of people. Prior to the pandemic, only 6% of employees were 100% remote. That's crazy to think about, right? Now, especially, how things change when change is forced, right? We've learned that not all change is bad. Both employers and employees have gotten on board to realize that remote work can actually be beneficial and productive. As of today, according to a report from Businesswire, the anticipated growth rate of full-time remote work over the next 5 years has doubled from 30% to 65%. So with that, here's what I'll say, employers. If you're not on board with this concept yet, now is probably the time. And I understand that not every job can be remote, but as we've learned, many can. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the top 5 fastest growing remote jobs that you may want to apply for in 2022. Before we do that, though, I would love to ask you a favor. I'd love for you to share this podcast with others. Do you know someone who needs some help finding that dream remote job and could benefit from this episode? Let them know about this podcast. We want to help as many people as possible win in the workforce, and word of mouth is the best way to make that happen. You can listen wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, whether that's Apple, Spotify, right on our website at theworkforcelink.com. You can pretty much find us anywhere. We've made it very easy to share. Thank you in advance for being willing to tell others about us. So now that we've taken care of that, let's dive into today's episode on the 5 fastest growing remote jobs that you may want to apply for today. Before we dive into the specific jobs, I want to talk for a minute about the positive impacts of working remotely. So Scott Birkin, who's a former remote team leader at WordPress, says the option to work from home when needed or to try a different lifestyle without having to change jobs is a win for everyone. Alex Turnbull, who is the founder and CEO of Groove, says successfully working from home is a skill, just like programming, designing, or writing. It takes time and commitment to develop that skill, and the traditional office culture doesn't give us any reason to do that. Makes sense, right? Osman Khan, co-founder and CEO of Paddle 8, says, in the right roles and with the right people, Flex does offer tremendous productivity improvement. It gives people time to process properly, and it gets them out of the office in terms of being bogged down in day-to-day admin. So there's more thought leadership that comes to the table, and that's where your creativity and innovation comes in. So my personal and professional opinion on these quotes is a resounding yes, because I've been working remotely off and on for a long time. If you're a country music fan, you know that song, right? I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool by Barbara Mandrell. Well, I was working from home when working from home wasn't cool. When I moved back to my hometown in 2015 to pursue ministry full time, I was still working as the communications director for a nonprofit. And my boss, Cindy, who I actually did an episode with last season on leadership lessons, one of my favorite episodes, by the way, she knew I had the capability to still do the job and knew that moving back to my hometown was the right thing. She was honoring that. And so we found a way to make it work. So then I went back into being on location full-time eventually. And before the pandemic hit, I was mostly traveling to various prisons in central Missouri teaching personal and professional development, which, by the way, was one of the most life-changing opportunities I have ever been a part of. But guess what? All of a sudden, there was no more going back into the prisons. Thank you, COVID. So for a while, all of our staff, we were all working from home, right? And then we started slowly integrating back into the job centers, except I didn't. I stayed at home and I actually turned my upstairs into an office. Turns out that my communications director skills came in handy from previous experience. Because I could no longer do reentry at the capacity that I once was, my amazing boss saw a void that needed to be filled, and I got a promotion out of the deal. It was a win-win for everybody. And here I am today. I'm still working from home, and I love it. And as a matter of fact, I'm looking out the window right now at snow on the ground. I have a hot cup of tea by my side, and I'm working on this podcast episode for you. But it does take skill. It does take being intentional. You have to be intentional. You have to be disciplined. You have to do well with time management. You have to be accountable. But I also believe that it also produces more productive results at the end of the day. Not to mention, have you seen gas prices lately? I get to save money on gas, which would cost me a kidney if I have to drive back and forth to work every day. Now, like I said, I do have to be very intentional about making sure I'm around people, or else I would go crazy because I'm a people person. We might need to do an episode on that, actually, of how to keep your mental health in check while working remotely. That's a really good idea. You know, like why it's important for you to get dressed every day, why it's important to be around people. We might just do that. So if you're looking for a remote job this year, there may be some specific categories that you want to pay attention to. According to an article from FlexJobs, these are the 5 fastest growing remote jobs that you may want to apply for today. Number 1, HR and recruiting. So you might enjoy matching others up with their dream job. Is that something you enjoy? You know, this might be the opportunity for you. And not only that, but you get to help current team members continue in training to make the company more productive. That's often something that position is involved in. There's some common job titles for this position that include personnel manager, recruiter, staffing consultant, talent acquisition specialist. Okay, so HR and recruiting is the top one. Number 2 is operations. So this type of opportunity usually involves overseeing goods and services, overseeing company production, labor, things like that. One of your main focuses will be to maximize the company's profits. So you'll need to know the business and the financial world for a position like this. Some common job titles for this position include business operations manager, operations officer, inventory specialist. Speaking of working remotely, are you looking for career training without even having to leave the house? Good news for you, my friend. We've recently launched the Career Club, a virtual work experience for job seekers ages 14 to 24. Here's how it works. We assist you with job seeking skills, personal management skills, how to meet employer expectations, good work habits, money management principles, and more. After training is complete, you receive job placement, which allows you to implement your newly developed skills. And here's the cool part. You get paid while you learn. That's right. You receive $13 an hour while participating in the virtual training, with possible transition to a higher wage upon job placement. This is an exciting opportunity to earn while you learn. To sign up or learn more, visit cwdregion.com/career club. That's cwdregion.com/career club. Okay, number 3 is internet and e-commerce. So a career in this field involves working with information technology, working with web development, design, social networking tools. If you have computer skills and technical knowledge, this might just be the job for you, especially if you enjoy solving problems for people. This career field is not going anywhere anytime soon for sure. Some common job titles for this position include IT or technical support, social media specialist, SEO manager, which is search engine optimization, or a software engineer. Speaking of IT, did you know that technology occupations in Missouri are projected to grow by nearly 20% from 2016 to 2026? According to the CyberState's 2020 report, the U.S. technology industry has added, you ready for this, an estimated 1.9 million new jobs over the past decade. So the tech sector accounts for approximately 10% of the total U.S. economy, making it one of the largest industries. If you're interested in starting or growing a career in IT, you should check out the Return Strong Missouri CompTIA. That's CompTIA IT certification training program. I will share the link in the show notes because it's a rather long link, but check that out. It's CompTIA, CompTIA. Okay, number 4, insurance. This surprised me a little bit. I'm not sure why. But this career field is for those who love to analyze, to research, to investigate things. You'll be working with illnesses, injuries, natural disasters, things like that. You're gonna have to learn how to maximize safety for both the company and the client. And some insurance careers, not all, but some, involve sales. So some common job titles for this position include the obvious insurance agent or a claims representative. So if that's something that you think you might enjoy, insurance is the field to get into. And number 5 for all my creative friends is graphic design. So you get to design solutions, you get to use your creative skills to increase your company's bottom line, and you get to do it visually. If you can take your ideas and turn them into images, this might be the career for you. Some common job titles for this position include graphic designer, the obvious, right? Illustrator, or creative director. So if you love to create, graphic design doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. So there you have it, my friend. When I was a career manager, I used to ask my clients all the time, whether they were 15, whether they were 35, whether they were 50, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it always made them laugh because they didn't expect that question. But I'm going to ask you that same question today. What do you want to be when you grow up? Do any of these remote job opportunities fit you? So the article I'm sharing from today from Flex Jobs actually features 10 positions, but these were the top 5. They also talk about communications, social media, virtual administration, which is an interesting one. I'll share the link for you in the full article. If these 5 might not be something you're interested in, don't hesitate to go check out the other 5 because they might just fit in your wheelhouse. The way we worked prior to the pandemic is no longer the norm. We all know that, right? Working from home is becoming the new normal for many industries, and it has proven to offer many benefits to both the employer and the employee. So with that said, good luck in your job search. I hope this episode was helpful for you today, and if it was, please share with others. And if you haven't already, don't forget to leave us a review, preferably a 5-star. If you're interested in learning what you want to be when you grow up, you can contact your local job center today to do an actual career assessment. Our career managers would love to help you do that. Maybe one of these remote jobs is your next career pathway. You can find your closest job center at cwdregion.com/job centers. That's cwdregion.com/job centers. Have a great week, and until we meet again in the next episode, actually, we'll see you in season 3. Until then, remember this: there's always a brighter tomorrow if you're willing to find it. The Central Region Workforce Development Board Incorporated and COPIC are equal opportunity employers and programs. Auxiliary aids and services are available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Missouri Relay Services at 711.